Hey there, guys. How's it going? My name is Sumit Chatterjee from the Flow Zone Academy, and I'm a flow state coach, which means that I help you feel better and perform better. Today, I want to talk a little bit about perfectionism. Now, at certain times, we all feel the need to be perfect. We all feel the need to be correct and right. But by whose standard? You see, we start to measure ourselves based on other people's rulers, whereas we could be creating our own measurement devices to measure our progress, to measure our metrics, and to measure our quote unquote success. Because what's success to you might not always be success to somebody else. Now, I've had this feeling many times. I had this feeling today. I was like, man, I need this video to be perfect before I put it out there. I need it to be perfect. I need it to be edited accurately. I need it to be there on time. And I recognize that it's coming from a scarcity mentality, this what if mentality, this sense of fear approaching. You see, perfection is very different to having a much more gold standard to yourself. Your expectations can only be managed by you. If you start managing somebody else's expectations, you start to carry more burdens on your shoulders. You know how in culture we use the term perfect a lot? Practice makes perfect. Well, I don't necessarily agree with that statement. I believe that correct practice makes perfect, right? Appropriate practice to be right for you, not necessarily right for somebody else, but right for you. You know, growth isn't linear. Healing isn't linear. You don't come one time and then suddenly everything changes for you. That does happen in certain cases, right? It's like the problem builds up, 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 and then you go and meet somebody, and that meeting becomes a catalyst for the problems to just be let go of and expressed finally. And it becomes like a volcano at times. That's why certain clients come to me and they start crying. I notice the tears. I like it. I actually like that sign of somebody letting go and crying because it shows me a metric that they're actually feeling a need to let go of something. It's a symbol of letting go, but it's a very physical symbol. Whereas usually we don't really have symbols for when we've let go of something. Like how do you know if you let go of something? It's about emotional regulation. It's not about emotional taming. Someone told you that you shouldn't be that. Now, when you start hearing should from others, you start telling yourself should to yourself. So you're shoulding all over yourself. You see, should amplifies. What is should actually saying? What is it speaking out into the universe? I should be doing this, which means what I'm doing currently is wrong. I should be doing that. And the fact that I'm not doing that, I am not perfect. I am uncertain of myself, and I'll never make it. I should be doing that, and that's society's measure of that should. And so you're taking away your power, you're blaming somebody else, or you're giving them away your power, right? By saying should. Because at the end of the day, you do have the responsibility, you do have the ownership. But if you're saying I should be doing this, it takes that power away. Your should becomes your golden compass. Your golden compass could be following your intuition and your heart in what you truly believe in. But so far, it's been should, working towards pleasing others so that they accept of you. But you're actually going to regret them in the future and be like, you didn't let me. You didn't allow me. No, it was yourself that didn't allow you. You see, you allowed them to not allow you. If you've worked up to a certain point and you know you have good information and you have all of this stuff, all this wisdom, but you're not putting it out there, you're probably relying on perfectionism and being perfect. Let me ask you one thing. Can you find a definition of what perfection means? Can you define it for me? Because perfection to you is relative, right? It's your ideal of what that is. Now we can speak it very objectively and mathematically and understand that, yeah, the Vitruvian man, golden ratio, we can all make our bodies towards that. And I understand that. I like that, actually, the fact that we're striving towards a success. But I think that, measurement is just excellence. Don't even call it the word perfection, because I think that it just creates this sense of illusion, right? Because nature is perfect even though it's imperfect, right? There's this concept of wabi-sabi, where you have these kisugi, these Japanese clay pots. The cracks are stuck together with gold to highlight the flaws, to make it a part of its beauty. The same thing with ripped jeans, where you see this kind of grunge aesthetic, but it's still aesthetic. So in the same way, if I stomp on a dollar bill, it's still of value. The same way, if you get stomped on, you are still of value. And you're going off of this illusion or this basis of perfection, but you're not sure of when will it be perfect. When is it going to be perfect enough? You don't need to be perfect for something to be of quality. You don't need it to be perfect to have something excellent out there in the world. Because what perfection is showing me is there's a fear associated with it inside of you. You're scared. It's a coping mechanism to avoid making mistakes, because you've been taught that making mistake is bad, and that I live in this cancel culture, and anything that I do, any little slip up, it's always there. The internet history, people will know, people will see my flaws. And yes, I understand these fears. But at the same time, instead of perfectionism, if you work towards progress, if you work towards growth, knowing that growth isn't linear, stacking brick by brick by brick by brick until you have an entire foundation for you to build the building. So if you're laying one brick at a time, you can make a building. But you're expecting to show up every day and make a building every day. You see what I'm saying? And no, I'm not saying to lower your standards. Absolutely not. I don't like that idea where kids are getting participation trophies just to feel good. All right, that teaches them to be in lower self-esteem, right? It's like, what? I won just by showing up? I didn't give anything? It's an unhelpful mindset too, to have that kind of fear-based mentality run you. And it's okay to start out there, right? There's nothing wrong with the fear. If you're like seeking vengeance to begin with, but it's from a good place and you know that you're going to change, I believe it can transform into love. And this is why I believe people change as well over time. There's certain terms and cultures like once a cheater, always a cheater, right? I don't believe in that. I believe that people can actually do the work consciously and they can change. This is what I've seen, this is what I've experienced in myself, and this is what I help people do. It's okay to understand that failure is not an identity. You don't become a failure. Failure is just an event. It's just something you go through. So if you never try, you'll never experience what you really want. And we miss 100% of the shots that we don't take. Shout out Wayne Gretzky. All right. Until you actually apply it, you won't know what to do with that information. Until you get some kind of feedback, negative or positive, you won't know what to do with that information. So if you're crying and you have some tissue in your eyes, right? Let's say you use a napkin or a tissue to wipe your tears. Tell me this, is it a perfect tissue or is it an imperfect tissue? You could say, no, it's not a perfect tissue. Is it completely drying? Does all the moisture take up all the tears? Can it hold the maximum amount of tears? No. It's kind of flimsy. You can't reuse it. But at the same time, in that moment, as you were crying, It served its purpose. It did its job. So I want to ask you, did you do your job? Did you give it the best that you ever could? Did you show up? Did you do your work at the best that you could? That's it. Is it completely dry? That's out of the equation, right? The only thing that can exist is what you are. Some people feel like they should be taller. And yeah, you can say it's genetics, it's my karma, whatever, but again, it can be biological, right? It's just a circumstance. But at the same time, if you're fighting against that and you're resisting that, what you are, it's going to cause you a lot of pain, right? It's not that you're perfect, it's just that you are. It's getting a bit philosophical, but existence is. It's not existence could be, it just is. And growth and change is the constant. So what you are today doesn't necessarily mean that's who you are tomorrow. You can decide each day who you want to be. You see, this remote control for my air conditioning, it can't decide, right? It can't be this can't be anything else in my hands than what it is. If I just leave it like this and I don't do anything with it, it just is what it is. Now it's up to me for me to press the buttons and make sure that I have it on the right temperature and I have the control key to be actually making this work. But let's say I don't know what these buttons mean. It's completely useless to me. If I couldn't speak the language, if I didn't know English, and I just saw all these symbols here, I'd just be like, what does this mean? What does this mean? How do I turn this on? All right. So the fact is, this is made for somebody in mind. Somebody who speaks English, somebody who knows how to use an air conditioning, used it before, similar symbols, all this stuff, and it comes with a manual. But in life, we don't come with a manual saying this is perfection and this is not perfection. And the idea is that, yeah, culture has all these variants and these ideas of what perfection is. And like, this is beauty and this is beauty. And this is beauty too. Oh, by the way, this is also beauty. Have you ever heard that beauty is in the eye of the beholder? Perfection is in the eye of the beholder. Expectations is in the eye of the beholder. All right, hurt people hurt people. When you know that just by you showing up, just by you existing, that you are perfect and nature is perfect, right? A crooked tree is still perfect. A rock with a few dents in it is still perfect. It's there to do what it does, and that's to be there. Now you can say, no, I'm not a rock though, bro. I'm a human being, man. I have feelings. I have all these complications. This is my life, and this happened, and this other thing happened, and why did this have to happen? And I don't know why this happened. All right, I understand that, but you are still a part of nature. You're not separate from it. For certain people, this video might be philosophical and they might not resonate with it, but for the people that it does resonate with, feel free to share it with others. I appreciate you guys. Have an amazing day. May the flow be with you and stay legendary.